VALOR. What is going on? It's been a while since we've done one of these. So
Yes, it has
always a
been
pleasure to be on your program.
11 months approximately. Yes, absolutely. Always a pleasure to get on the
I
live
think
stream with Brother Mace.
I think we've had birthdays since the last time we've done this.
Absolutely.
That's something that because I mainly migrated over to Twitch to do a lot of my live streams, but I've noticed
Yeah,
that
same
in
here.
the year, like you look at your live streams a year ago, it's vastly different from how it is today. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and the streams I've seen you do on Twitch you're killing it, and it's
Oh
like
yeah, it's
me, I'm like the
bonkers.
opposite. It's like I loved my streams back in the day. My
Uh-huh.
streams back then were like, because we would just go raw and we would just have fun with it,
Oh, I
you know?
remember. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I
I
got,
think I used to show up for a lot of those streams, and I would jump in the Discord with you.
yeah. And then I
The
got
early
sucked
ones,
into the
yeah.
whole Twitch political group, and which was fun, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but then, the whole premise of my show is to have fun, and everything was so super serious. Speaking of which, we're
Right.
going to be serious today. Um,
Very serious.
for the most
Serious as a
part.
heart attack. Yes, indeed.
So gig economy wise, what has been going on with you?
Yeah, so I feel like I should have the title of gig stacker revoked at this point
Ooh,
because I have
no.
not been stacking gigs. I have only been doing Field Nation, and Field Nation only in terms of actually doing gigs. I think I did like 3 months or 4 months of an apprenticeship at a software firm out here who shall go unnamed. But yeah, I've pretty much just been doing Field Nation. Oh, you know what? I think I did do. Was it Handy? I
Oh,
remember there was one you told me about, and I
yeah,
went and did
Handy,
it.
just so
I
bad.
think it was Handy, and it was like complete trash.
We'll touch on Handy a little bit later, but yeah,
It
Handy's
was
garbage.
garbage. It was so bad. It was so bad. But yeah, man, I've been doing Field Nation. I've linked up with a couple of techs out here. So there's like 4 techs that I've got their contact information. I've been shooting them. I've been giving them calls when I need some help on some jobs, and second tech needed. They've been giving me calls when they need help, and it's nice to network. Um, that's definitely one of the things that I miss from the apprenticeship that I did at the company of like actually having coworkers. Is like this field, like being in the gig economy, can be very, very lonesome.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like if you enjoy working on your own, this is the perfect thing for you.
I love working on my own, so I've kind of been doing the exact opposite. I've actually been
uh,
X-naying people outside of my professional, like, hey, let's toss stuff back and forth. Now it's
huh.
it's kind of only zoned down to one person, my buddy Duncan, and he's
Yeah.
like the only person. I've worked with him on multiple jobs and all these things, and I trust him. On the flip
Hmm.
side, there have been some people that in the past we've tossed work back and forth, and then they kind of showed their true colors, and I've
Yeah.
stepped back from that. But we'll touch on story times in a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, once I get into more examples. But yeah, that is very true. Networking is a very critical part of the gig economy. A lot of people, when they think of what the gig economy is, they zone in on like the food delivery and the ride share. When the
Right.
vast majority of what's truly actually going on with the gig economy, it's like mostly it's any like of these app-based gigs. Like we're talking the
Hmm.
independent contractor stuff. So the gig economy is way more than just like the service-based
Yeah.
industry.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so networking it is like a critical function to become successful in it. You're not gonna like as an Uber driver, you're not gonna be like, I don't want to do this ride, I don't want to pick up this person. Let me text my boy um, Jermaine or whatever. Hey, you want to go pick up this
Yeah.
this fucking guy down the road or whatever? No, it kind of comes per platform based upon the ecosystem of whichever platform you're utilizing. The These things can be very beneficial. So like with
Yeah.
Duncan, we pass stuff back and forward a lot, but the big thing is that team up on the bigger projects. And those are the
Right,
kind of things that
right.
kind of breed success for the both of us. But then going back to the thing about toxicity, there are some people that after a while you kind of see them using the gig economy in really shady ways that kind of
What
make
do
the
you
rest of us look bad.
what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So, do you remember there was that big $1,000 IKEA job that I had before I went up to Washington?
I remember
So
that one.
that guy,
Yeah, yeah.
he wanted to take half the pot.
Uh-huh.
He never showed up to the job
He
because he had
never
his
showed up.
never showed up. He had his own other job
Can
going
we
on.
just pause for a second here? The guy had a job with Mace, right? The guy was supposed to get half the money from the job. The brother never showed up for the job and was still trying to hit him up for half the money. Does that make sense to anybody here? Does that make sense to anybody? That doesn't make any sense to me. If I'm supposed to go do a job with somebody and I don't show up for the job and they do the job by themselves, I'm gonna hit them up like, sorry, I couldn't make it. You did the job by yourself. The whole thing is yours. We're even. We're square. That's that. I'm not gonna hit them up and be like, yo, where's my money at? Who does that?
Yeah, so
Oh my god.
I've done jobs with this guy before. What he doesn't use, so we utilize TaskRabbit. That's the big one, right?
Mhm.
And so I utilize it for my work, right? That's essentially my job, right? Is
Yeah.
TaskRabbit. Sometimes, very rarely, I'll take a client off platform.
Mhm.
Yeah, we all have our different reasons for doing that, but I'll do the core job that I'm there to be doing, and then when that job is done, I'll be like, hey, if you want to hire me in the future, you can hire me off platform. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
That's usually how I run with it, which is how TaskRabbit wants it to be done. These other
Oh,
guys,
is that right?
well, not necessarily how they would want it all to be on the app,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they would rather you finish that first job so they can at least get their portion, and then you can do whatever if you choose to. You have that right.
I see. That
What
makes
TaskRabbit
sense.
doesn't like is that when you get to a job and then you finagle that job to where, oh, let's only charge an hour and then we'll do the rest cash. So if I'm here for 6 hours,
Mhm.
I'm only going to charge you for the first hour. Then the other five
Right.
hours, I get cash from you. So that's 5 hours worth of work that TaskRabbit doesn't get their cut for. So it's those things that TaskRabbit is like big no go. You want to be
Yeah.
successful outside the platform, that's perfectly fine. But there's a certain ethical way you have to go about doing it. So this individual, this guy that wanted the $500, his cut of the pot from this massive IKEA job, which
Mhm.
it was a 30-hour job, which I beasted out in 13 hours total. Thank you very much. It it
Nice.
it took a lot. It took a lot, but I busted that out on my own. So it was even more reason not to like. You're crazy. You're insane. You never showed up. By the time you said, "Oh, I'm ready to come over," it's like, dude, there's like an hour's worth of work left. There's no point in you coming by.
Yeah.
So flash forward, right? So recently, this job that I just had, um, Buddy Duncan, like, hey, uh, he had a massive IKEA job. It needed two crews. This guy had three different closets, a master bedroom closet, which was huge. I think there was 9 packs in there, and then there was one, two, three other closets, so 4 total. There was a lot. Okay, so each of the other closets had 3 packs, and then the 9 in the big one, it was massive. It was 18 packs. Math. So 18 packs total. And the way that it works is on TaskRabbit, when you do the IKEA jobs, the packs, the way that they're built is every component that goes inside of it, that's what the customer's paying for. The
Oh
only thing that's
wow.
extra,
They're not just paying for like the entire unit.
right? So, well, no, that's what I mean. So when someone designs their packs unit with all the different
Mhm.
drawers and the shelves and whatever, that's it. So if the client pays $90 to have a PAX installed, everything inside of it, that's what they're paying for. The only thing,
There's no additional charge to them for the individual.
no, there's not. The
Wow,
only
that's
thing that's
nuts.
extra are
Yeah.
sliding doors because those take forever on their own to put together.
Uh-huh.
Um, the sliding doors and the PAX wardrobe lighting.
Mhm.
Those are $18 a piece.
Okay.
Even though it's click, and, they're like mindless how easy those things are. but those are the only.
Mm-hmm.
So basically there was two crews. So Duncan, he went on the all these people that went to this job, they all went on the IKEA docket, right? They all.
Yeah.
I even was one of the ones that said, I want to do this job. Let me jump into it. I didn't get chosen for it, so I was like, all right, oh well. So, excuse me. So, turns out I get there and the customer's telling me, yeah, so we had two crews. We had Duncan and this guy Noah. They were off over doing these closets out there. The other two guys were in the master bedroom, and yeah, there's a couple things that are kind of off. And the guy, bless his heart, the guy was like super passive about the whole thing. And I go in there and I look and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like it was like one, they built the frames and then they put like a clothes rail and one shelf and then called it a day.
Yeah.
All the drawers, all the pull-out trays, like all the additional stuff that should have been in there, they didn't even bother putting in there.
It's crazy.
So there's to
bring the client let them leave like that.
I'll get to that. So because he didn't know how all this works, and because you had one team, is a huge house, massive house. So on one end of the house you have one team, and on the other end of the house you have another team. So each group are working like kind of independently of each other. So each of them are like communicating differently to the client. So what they had told the client, and this is something that these two guys, they're a team. They run rampant all over town doing this. And I've seen them do it before. I've been on jobs with both of them before, and they've done this time and time again, where they will nickel and dime a client. Now it's one thing to, charge what you're worth. It's like damn near extortion. So when they get there and they go through everything with the client, they're like, oh no, what you paid for is just for us to build these. And he's like, well, no, it's like they said that's all included. He's like, no, like all these sliding shelves, these things, these like whatever, none of that stuff is included. We just build the units and mount it to the wall. And he's like, well, all right, well, I can arrange someone else to come and install the stuff inside. What about my lights? It's like, well, the lights aren't included, which is true. He's like, if you want us to do the lights, you have to pay us $200 a piece. So they installed the lights, and so you see how, like, let's say that right here is the shelf, right?
Yeah.
So the angle of which they installed the lights were like this and like this. Like the lights were all fucked up. So like they like half-assed everything. The work that they did do, they half-assed. So on the PAX units, when you want to clam them together to make it seamless, you drill a hole in between the holes to line it up, and then there are the special screws, male and female end, you bring in on the bottom and on the top, and it brings it in nice and tight. These guys used, I think, like quarter or half-inch drywall screws on one of them, and just there we go. And so you have these units that are like tight on the bottom, but then they bow out at the top. They're not lined up proper. Like it just looks so bad. And one of the things that the client had asked them for, that he also paid for, included in the $200 a piece for these guys, is he wanted to make sure that the units were mounted to the wall, but he like flush, but he didn't want it to cut into his baseboard. So he went out and bought strips of baseboard that matched the stuff that was already on the ground, and he wanted them to screw it up at the top so that it could be secure.
I see.
And there's a lot of clients that'll do stuff like that. So what these guys did is that they just threw it up on the wall, drilled right into the drywall, and then like very loosely drilled in the PAX units to it. So it wasn't secure at all. So when I went out there and I was fixing all of this work, I had to take out the old ones. I had to find the studs to put the baseboard up to, drill that in, and then mount it properly. Like I was there from 11:30 in the morning until 1:30 at night.
That's ridiculous.
Fixing all of their mistakes.
Let me see. Brooklyn Style. How's it going? He says, can the client leave reviews for everyone on the job individually, or only for the primary worker?
Only for the primary worker. That's something that they've talked about with TaskRabbit that they want to do in the future moving forward, is that when large team tasks are involved, that everyone involved in that task gets that
their own individual review.
Yeah, because
that's how it works on Field Nation.
That's how it should work.
No matter how many techs show up, like as long as each tech is routed their own individual work order, each tech gets their own individual review.
That's how it should be. That's definitely how it should be, and that kind of filters into the metric thing.
Yeah.
So metrics, for anyone that's in the gig economy, you know that metrics are kind of your key to success.
Make or break. Yeah, make or break.
Having positive metrics means that you have positive workflow. For example, for me on TaskRabbit, when your metrics go down to a certain percentage of your acceptance, your response, just responding to a client that hits you up, and your response, acceptance, and then your completion rating. Completion rating makes a lot more sense. You've kind of agreed to do that. You're contractually obligated to do the work that you said you're going to do. That one does make sense, but the other two, responding and acceptance rating is a very big one, and you've seen a lot of other platforms kind of remove that metric, at least on the front end for the users. It might still be like algorithmically there, just in the back end, but it's technically against the law to punish us for not accepting jobs.
Right, as individual contractors.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a weird thing in the gig economy where some companies get it, some companies don't. And one of the ththings I've seen with TaskRabbit, as much as I love them, as much as I'll praise them, they're kind of like in this weird mindset of like, oh well, we're going to use this old metric rating, which is, it's rather archaic because it kind of goes against the entire point of what we're doing in the first place.
Right, where we're supposed to have the freedom and flexibility to pick and choose what jobs we want to take and what jobs you don't want to take. But like, I guess in their eyes, they wanna boost the people who are doing the most work and even picking up the terrible jobs that nobody else wants to do. But yeah, so like it just see, how's Field Nation working out? Field Nation is working really good for me right now. Like Mace was talking about with like getting good reviews and having good metrics. Like I have a lot of jobs under my belt, and I've got pretty much a 5-star rating. So for me, requesting jobs, a lot of the time I'm going to get the job, even if I'm like requesting like high rates. And something that I'm really happy about recently is one of the techs that I worked with and like linked up with and started doing some work with. He was teaching me some stuff, and it's kind of funny because he's only been doing it for a couple of months, whereas I've been doing this for like 3 years. But regardless, he's been teaching me some stuff to make the jobs that I would normally ignore more worth my while. And so pretty much this is it. And like, let's say there's a job. Let me see. Also, it is illegal for TaskRabbit to set your rates at a flat rate for individual contractors. I don't know. No, I don't believe so. Because Mace, you can negotiate that, right, on TaskRabbit. Like you can negotiate your rates.
All right. So the way that it works is there are flat rate jobs, which are the big, large IKEA jobs.
Yeah.
Those are flat rate. So based upon the items that we're going to be building, each item has its own designated dollar amount tied to it. But for me, most of my work comes hourly. So the cool thing about TaskRabbit is that there's a sliding scale of how much you want to get paid per hour. And that has its own weird algorithm thing going on. But so prime example, right now I'm sitting at $27 an hour. I was at 34, and I always praise this. Do not lower your rates because it hurts everyone and it also hurts yourself. However, this kind of goes back to the whole metric thing. Because of my dollar amount being at $34 an hour, which was in the green zone for me because of all the experience that I have, and I have multiple tasks, multiple reviews, my profile showcases that, hey, I'm a very experienced person in this field. So I was good at that price range. However, because it's such a high price range and your metrics are at the percentage that they're at, they literally remove you from search. So the only way to get back on is you lower your rate. So when I lowered my rate, not only did it pop me back into search so people could find me and I can get more jobs, but it also tacked on great value. Now, great value usually means cheap, right? But it's algorithmic. So I'm a great value for my experience level. Another tasker that's brand new, never done a day in his life, working at $19 an hour is a great value based upon his experience level. But
Mm,
I, essentially beat these people at my price range. But yeah, so
just for
basically, long story
yes,
short,
yeah.
the cool thing about TaskRabbit is that working hourly and you being able to dictate how much money you're going to be making, that's kind of why I love it so much. Um,
Well, so I got a question for you.
hit me.
Um, in terms of the TaskRabbit jobs that are flat rate, could you offer, let's say, instead of what they want to pay $200, could you bid in for, let's say, 210, or is it a accept or deny sort of deal?
No, it's just accept or deny. That's how it is. The main focus for the last
Okay.
few years, I think 2 or 3 years, with TaskRabbit has solely been the contractor chooses how much, like they choose their hourly rate. They used to
Uh-huh.
do a flat rate bidding system years ago, but it wasn't
Okay.
really working out very well for them. Um, they've hinted at making a flat rate option somewhere in
Mhm.
there. Um, we're a lot because I'm a part of a Facebook group, TaskRabbit Taskers United, and
Yeah.
it's a very slippery slope because depending on, like, I think flat rate would be great. So let's say TV mounting, right? It can be quite a bit of work. It takes a skill. It takes knowledge. Is it easy? Yeah, I mean, especially if you've been doing it for a while. But going and mounting a TV is so quick. You're only there for like an hour. Um,
Right, right, right.
so I would like to have a flat rate option. Like, hey, if you want me to come and mount your TV, it's going to be a minimum of $50. Like, that's my flat rate to mount your TV.
Hmm.
Something like that, I think, would be fair. But I'm not a fan of a bidding war. I've never been a fan of a bidding war. So the client can succeed, I guess. Like, when people bid on your job, it's a race to the bottom. you know so that's like with Tackle, for example. Tackle's
Yeah.
a very, very bidding. They have that whole thing going on, and it's flat rate and all that. But the problem that I had with Tackle was that you would get clients that would have all this massive work, but on the app they would choose the lowest tier. So they
Hmm.
choose a $45 tier when it should be like $150 tier. They
Exactly.
and that's
It's
why
so messed up.
that's
So
why
hold on, Nick.
yeah.
So the one, oh, sorry. Let me just finish my
Yeah, yeah,
my
yeah, yeah. Go,
story
go, go, go.
about yeah. So the thing that the fellow technician had taught me about doing jobs that you normally would ignore is that a lot of these companies, when they put these work orders out for, like, let's say, like, stupid low pay, or like to do something stupid for just a short period of time, bill them for travel, bill them for tolls, bill them for parking, like build them for all this stuff that makes it worth your while, without necessarily having to try to negotiate with them on the rate, you know. So, like, let's say it's a job that's an hour away, right? So that's 2 hours travel, and they're only paying you $50. So instead of doing just that $50 job in and of itself and driving for 2 hours for free, you're going to bill them, let's say, maybe another $50. That's $25 an hour driving. That's better than doing driving for Amazon Flex, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, or whatever your rate is. My brother, he doesn't do a job on Field Nation unless if they're paying 75 or more, 75 an hour or more, and he bills his travel at his time divided by two. So for him, that would be like, what, $37 an hour for travel, which is damn good for driving, you know. And company, like, if your work is good enough, like, and you're doing like really complex IT work, companies are willing to pay for that sort of thing, you know. Um, and so that's something that I learned recently that's made my experience in Field Nation much better, so that I don't feel like I'm being taken advantage of doing these, like, small jobs, I guess.
Well, that's a big issue I've seen is I've tried to kind of make some sort of sense out of what types of clients are actually willing to pay for good quality work, and
Yeah.
there's no mathematics to it. It's like random essentially. But one of the ways that I kind of pinpointed myself in a better direction was by raising my rates. Back
Hmm.
when I had back early on when I was first doing TaskRabbit, I was making $21 an hour and then 24, 25, 26.
Yeah.
As I was moving on up, the particular type of client that I would get started to disappear. So
Hmm.
the budget conscious one,
Oh, they're
like
the cheap bastards.
yeah, the cheap ones, the ones that, want you to do all this crazy amount of work for a lower amount of pay, and they're
Right.
always adding something else on, and this, that, and the
Uh-huh.
other. They don't value your time. That's my number one
Uh-huh.
thing is my time. Uh,
Right.
since I've raised my rates up to a higher point, my clients are much more conscious of what my time means. So before,
Hmm.
I would have clients that I'd be in the middle of a job. I'd get it done. Like, all right, I'm good to go. Everything's done. You like it? Oh yeah. By the way, since you're here, can you go do X, Y, Z? And I'm like, um, we kind of agreed to this, and I already have other jobs going on. Oh, you can reschedule that. You're already here right now. And it's like,
Wow.
but since I've changed that up, I now have clients that, oh, you know what? We'll tack it on for next time. Just slide it as ongoing, and I'll talk to you, and we'll arrange another date. So that
Wow.
it's getting clients that understand the value of the work that you're actually putting in, and that's something that's very hard to
Yeah.
find.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like man, I feel like on Field Nation, I don't really I haven't really taken clients. I think maybe I have. You know what? I definitely have. I had one, it was like a month ago, where it was a flat rate job, and they just really tried to take advantage of me. Like the work order said one thing, you know, and the person who like called me is like, "Hey Jamal, can you take this job?" Um, like they explained it as I'm going out to do X, Y, and Z, right? I get to the job, I do X, Y, and Z, and the support's like, before you leave, you have to do A through A through freaking H, and I'm like, hold on, this is a flat rate, this isn't hourly, so you're asking me to do all this extra stuff. That's not right. That's kind of messed up. And so I ended up doing it, but on the flip side, after the job was done, I ended up requesting them to pay me for the additional time because we ended up going way over the time that was expected for the flat rate, and they ended up giving it to me. But I still feel like the support, he's not the one who was paying, mind you. Like his job is to make sure the job gets done, and I understand that. It was, I guess, there's just multiple layers, multiple levels of people that are dealing with these work orders on Field Nation, and not everybody understands, how things get done or the discussions that were had, what was actually on the work order. Um, but yeah, so that's definitely something that I've dealt with, and that was my way on in dealing with it.
That seems like a very normal thing when it comes to the flat rate. Is the clients, because I've seen it with a lot of the IKEA jobs. We'll get to a job, and
Hmm.
just like that guy I was talking about, the guy that swindles people, it is true. If it's not on the ticket, we don't do it. Um,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of clients that I've gone to where they'll have like their pack system, cool, and then there's
Hmm.
a bed that pops up out of nowhere, and then they have like a shoe rack and all these other things that they
All
want.
this extra stuff.
And I
It's
tell
like,
them,
why didn't you just add that to the order? Oh, because you're trying to save money and you out of my labor. Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
well,
I
what I
appreciate
tell
it.
them is, well, it's not on my side. Is it okay if I see your order form? Like, oh, I don't know where it's at. Can I see your receipt? Because then they say, oh, we already paid for it. It's like, oh, well, can I see the receipt? Oh, we don't know where it's at. It's okay. You know what? Let me call support real quick. Oh, don't worry about it then.
Don't
Never
worry about
mind.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, then they always
exactly.
backpedal.
Because they know they're trying to get over, man. They're trying to get over. Like the lucky thing for me is that I don't have to deal with that often on Field Nation. Like the large majority of my jobs are hourly, and it's like it's a good hourly pay too. Like pretty much my base is 45 an hour, If I can get like 60 or 70 an hour, I'm like really happy. But I'm willing to settle for 45 an hour, you know. And at that, you know, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm more than good.
You know,
Let me see. Oh, sorry, man.
yeah, questions. We got questions. Hit them up.
We got a question from Brooklyn Style. Question / statement. It's hard to get gigs on Field Nation as a newbie. Absolutely, that is correct. It is very difficult to get jobs as a newbie on Field Nation. A couple of suggestions, and I've done this on a video before, but I'll go through them again right now. Make sure that you have your drug test done. Number one. Number two, get your background check done. Number three, have a professional picture, either like a professional headshot. If you can't afford that, have a friend help you out. You know, put on something that makes it look like you're professional, but you're not going to an interview. You want it to look like you're somebody who can do physical labor, you know, but still look good while you're doing it, if that makes any sense. So that means like a polo, you know, some nice shoes, not tennis shoes, and, you know, like some slacks or something. Maybe like a white tee underneath of it, just solid. On top of that, you want to have really, really good write-up of your experience and what it's like to work with you, okay? So I showed mine in the video. Let me see. I think I can pull mine up real quick. Give me one sec. So while I'm pulling that up, another thing that you want to do to make sure that you're able to kind of get ahead of the competition on Field Nation and, you know, give yourself the best chance at getting work is to not apply for the jobs that have been sitting there in the available list. What you want to do is you want to look at your notifications and you want to apply for the jobs that have just been posted within the last 30 minutes, within the last hour, within the last 2 hours, because a lot of these project managers, they just want to get the ticket out there and have somebody get it. And if you're one of the first people to request it within a very short period of time, the likelihood of you getting it is very high. The likelihood of you getting a job where it's been sitting on the market for like the last 20 days is probably 0.5% chance that you're going to get that. So I'll just show you guys real quick what my profile looks like for my about. So I've got a very good list of types of work that I do, my skill set, my equipment. If you have certifications, put that. Let me see. I have over 9 years of professional experience, professional technician, cable technician, field technician. I have experience with VoIP installs, coax, cabling, switches, routers, patch panels, servers, and POS installs. I can fix wire through ceilings. Let me see, skip on. Other technicians who have worked with me would describe me as skilled, resourceful, and friendly. My greatest quality is my excellent comprehension and retention. So you want to have something like this. I'm very professional. I'm courteous. Like, what are your best qualities? So you want somebody to look at your picture, look at your profile, look at the types of work that you do, your skill set, and say, man, I would love to work with this person. Have your drug test done. Have your background check done. Like, these are all very important things. And then in terms of what I was saying before about the looking, so let me just show you guys real quick here. So if I click on work, right, I can see available work. All right, so this thing it's a little slow, but you know, we do what we must. Okay, all right. So here I can see a list of available work. I'm not going to apply to any of these, okay? Because I know that my chances of getting these jobs are very, very slim because they've probably been sitting here for forever. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to click on this little button right here, and it's going to show me my notification. I see here there was a job published 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, okay? If I'm applying to these ones, my chances of getting these are pretty high, you know? It's not 100% chance that I'm going to get it, but they're much higher than applying to the jobs that are available. So if you do all of those things, I can't guarantee that you're going to get some work, but I can guarantee that your chances are going to be better. All right, and that's my Field Nation rant.
No, I want to pick up on that. You're right. A profile speaks 1,000 words
Yes.
or a million words. Here's the thing. One of the big reasons why I've been able to be as successful as I am on I'm gonna stand for a while. I'm sick of sitting. On TaskRabbit is because look, I'm not no spring chicken, okay? But I like to think I'm easy on the eyes. So the fact that I have a professional, good-looking, friendly, inviting profile picture, it definitely um be that inviting face because you're going into someone's home, right? So
Yeah.
out like like Gig Sacker here, he or Chief Babatunde, he does a lot of working with other companies and stuff. So yeah, that professionalism is key. But when you're
Yeah.
talking about something like handy
The
tackle,
soft skills.
you know, when you're talking about something like where you're walking into someone's home, that means a lot to be that inviting, friendly face, you know.
Absolutely.
And you want to throw a little bit of personality into like professionalism is key. Like we I do this all the time. I'll go through my competition. It's not bad to see other people's profile in your area. You want to see what you're up against, right? So I like to go through and I see people like they'll list out their jobs and like, oh, if it has instructions, I figure out how to put it together. How does that tell me that you're a professional person at being able to um, put together furniture? Or like for plumbing, like if I can't figure it out, I'll have my phone ready to YouTube it. It's like, do you want some guy on a YouTube
Wow.
tutorial underneath your sink and you're charging him
Hold
hourly?
on. Can we stop right there for a second?
Yeah,
Okay. So the fact that they have that in there, it speaks volumes, right? So it means that they're resourceful, but they're not smart enough to word it in a way that it looks good to a potential client. Okay?
exactly.
It's great to be resourceful. There's nothing wrong with being able to YouTube something. That's a great asset to have, you know? To be able to Google something and figure it out, to be able to look at instructions and figure it out. That's not a proper way to word it. What's a better way to word it? I can learn anything. I'm a quick learner. I'm very intelligent. I have no problem picking up new skills, you know? That's how you word something like that.
Exactly.
Not I don't know how to do it and I'll go, you know what I'm saying?
It's like prime example. So before I did the whole gig economy thing, I was in HVAC. I went to school for it. I'm professionally trained in HVAC. I have field experience, all that jazz. There would be times I'd go to a client's house and I'd work on a unit that's like 20, 30 years old. I haven't seen that before. So obviously, yeah, there are going to be some things that you're going to have to pick up. You're going to have to, you know, tutorial stuff on YouTube. And there's no problem with that at all. No matter
Yeah,
like what your level of professionalism is, there's always more room to grow.
absolutely.
Uh I got people in my chat too. No, photo. No, I am not. I'm on YouTube. But if are you on YouTube too, Gig?
Oh, I'm only on YouTube. I'm not on
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'm
Twitch.
doing a dual thing with my boy.
Oh, I didn't know you were streaming as well.
Oh yeah, it's nothing crazy. So uh, you know, there's a few people that watch the stream, so I figured, hey, you know, let them watch. So anyway, uh, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like you said. There's always room to grow. There's always room to opportunities to gather more experience, and that's kind of thing with me that I've had to do over time is, you know, accepting the jobs you wouldn't normally take. So
Yeah,
yeah, you got to kind of like, oh, I haven't done this before. Don't tell the customer that. If you run into a snag and you have to Google something like, oh, this particular model's new to me. I've dealt with other variations, but this particular one's kind of tricky. Give me just a moment, you know. Like there's nothing wrong with something like that.
right.
But anyway, I think the big ticket that we can definitely get into is the whole healthcare thing.
Hold on. Before we
Oh,
do
when you're
that, I
done.
think we had one more question from Brooklyn Style. He says, "Can you use reviews from a third?" Um,
Oh, from like a outside source, like
yeah.
portfolio
I mean,
type stuff.
I don't have any problem with that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like in mine, I said technicians who have worked with me would say that I'm courteous and professional and things like that. Like, that's absolutely fine. You don't necessarily have to quote the you know, write down who said it or whatever. Just, you know, companies I've worked with in the past have said X, Y, or Z. That's completely fine. Yeah. So Mace, you wanna move on to the healthcare stuff?
Yeah. I kind of wanted you to speak your piece before I kind of broke down my take on it.
Okay. Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. Okay. Um, so this has to do with the gig economy. This has to do with America. This has to do with politics, all wrapped into one. Okay. I'm not sure where Mace falls on this, but I'm going to speak my piece, and then we'll hear what Mace has to say about it. Okay. All right. So America's healthcare system is broken, point blank and flat. Let me see, third-party platform reviews. Yeah, absolutely, go for it. I would say use that in your profile, if I understand that correctly. Okay, so America's healthcare system is broken. All right, the majority of people, from my understanding, that have health insurance, they're going to be getting their health insurance from a job. Their employers are going to be paying for that health insurance, and they're also paying that health insurance. I believe on average, the monthly cost of health insurance is around $400. And so, like, without even getting into the gig economy, the problems that there are that is inherent in having your insurance tied to your job are many. For one, if you want to switch to a new job, and there's some downtime in between your two jobs, I guess you're going to have to buy like some supplemental health insurance in between that, or go without insurance and hope nothing happens in the meantime. If you want to start your own business, now you've got to account for no longer having part of your health insurance paid for by the company that you work for, and you've got to figure out exactly how much it's going to cost you on your own, which again could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month. And then on top of that, there's people who are, let's say, on Obamacare, because they don't make enough money, or let's say they're getting some subsidies, right? Because they don't make enough money to get it on their own or whatever, right? And for them, maybe they can afford the remaining balance on top of the subsidies, or maybe they can't. And then there's other people who don't qualify for those subsidies, but they still don't make enough to where they can, easily afford the health insurance. And so my question is, right? Every other developed country in the world, every other first world country doesn't do this. We're the only ones. Just America, the greatest country on the planet, right? We're the only ones. We pay 2 times as much for health insurance, as any other country, and our results, the amount of healthy people are not as much as these other first world countries. So we're paying more and we're getting less. Okay. The system that all these other countries use is a single payer system. All right. You pay your taxes goes towards health insurance. Everybody gets health insurance. You don't have to pay a copay when you go to the doctor. And that in and of itself is a reason why a lot of people don't go to see the doctor too, right? Because let's say they have health insurance, but they don't want to pay this $10 or $20 for a copay for, some issue that they're having or some preventative thing that they have. And then it goes on to cause even more cost down the road for that individual, for the country, for taxpayers, for the house, for whoever ends up footing the bill, because of these freaking copays. Like, what kind of country do we want to live in? What kind of society do we want to have? Now, extrapolate that over to people that are working in the gig economy and don't have a job. Some of these gig economy companies don't pay enough to where you can afford your own health insurance. Maybe you're able to afford it through some subsidies because you're at that low end. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle where you're making too much to get subsidies, but not really enough to still be able to afford the health insurance. What do you do? Is this the kind of country that we want to live in? Do we really want to be the only modern country, the only first world country in the world, which lets people die because they can't afford health insurance? Is that who we want to be? The greatest country on the planet, America? And that's what I got to say about that.
All right, so Mace, for any of you guys that know me, I come from a very different perspective, very different vantage point. So, just for the sake of transparency for my position when it comes to this, I don't really worry so much about healthcare, mainly because it's taken care of for me through the VA. So, it's not really something that's crazy on my life priorities. Kids, they are covered and taken care of as well. So, it's not really something on my end. So, just full disclosure for you're just privileged, Mace. That's where you're coming from. Yeah, sure. Let's just go with that. So let's talk about the gig economy and healthcare and stuff. You're an independent contractor, okay? So obviously, when you're working in the gig economy, you're everything's a contractual basis. So for that company that platform that you're working with, for them to then issue out like some sort of health insurance for you or some sort of plan, even if they were to kind of mediate something like that, that would then in turn make them an employer. Because when you go to an employer and you go past your 90 days or however long based upon where you're working, a lot of times you have that option for healthcare through the employer or something like that. It was like this when I was at Calca, and because I had my healthcare through the VA, I didn't have to opt into it. And you do take a portion of your pay each month, and it does go towards taking care of your medical and all that. But when you're working in the gig economy, you don't have that option because you're not an employee. And like Ben Shapiro talked about this with Tucker Carlson when they were talking about the former CEO of Uber, and kind of how like
Oh, okay.
the
I
big
haven't seen this.
well, one of Ben Shapiro's thing is he gets people on his show, right, left, it doesn't matter, and they just talk on Sunday mornings on his little podcast thing.
Yeah.
And so Tucker Carlson of Fox News fame, he wrote a wonderful book called Ship of Fools. And I would say that it's not just a right wing thing. I mean, he kind of like lifts up the veil of like, look, we're being run into the ground, and this is how it's going on is because of the people that we have in office. Right, left, middle, it doesn't matter. So, and one of the things he talked about with Uber was the main crux with Uber is their whole ethos and their ecosystem is designed to not benefit the people that are actually making the company successful. So when you when you go on your app in Uber, I mean, there's a lot of times you'll get notifications about, oh, be friendly to the environment or this, that, and the other, like all this crazy fluff stuff. But then Uber is not paying the people that are making them successful. And I've seen this on TaskRabbit.
Can you say what you like? Can you like expand on that on this thing? They're not paying the people that are making them successful.
All right, so when Uber first started, drivers loved it because they were making a killing. Because Uber, their cut that they were taking wasn't as drastic as it was today. Making money with Uber in this day and age, it's if you're gonna let's say full time. Like I want to look at the gig economy full time. If you're gonna try to make that your full time thing, being an Uber driver, you have to get lucky enough to be able to drive enough upkeep just the driving alone. You have to make enough money every day to cover the cost of gas baseline. I'm not even going to get into the maintenance and all that other stuff. And then when you want to talk about being successful is once you've met the cutoff, or like I've done all these rides, I've made enough money to cover the cost of the gas for these rides. Now, where's my upper threshold going to be? Where am I going to be to actually make money to where I can put some aside? That's my success. Your success, when speaking monetarily, comes from the money that's total profit at the end of all of your labor. So the problem with Uber is that over the years, especially since they've been trying to go public, and have they gone public just yet?
They did.
They did?
Recently went public, yeah.
On the road to going public, they have investors they need to appease, right? Because they have this crazy, outlandish their worth, they believe they're worth like I think like $100 billion or something crazy like that, when they're really not. They've actually been showing a net loss continuously for years and years and years because a lot of that money is in marketing. A lot of that money, you have to pay the drivers and stuff. So the number one way that Uber has tried to fix their net losses is by cutting what they're paying drivers. And I've seen this with TaskRabbit.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen that. Yeah. drivers, I think they're like boycotting, or they had something like a march or something recently.
There's a lot of different reasons behind the march. One of the big things is the pay. Um, so what Uber has done, and I've seen TaskRabbit slash IKEA do this with the flat rate jobs. What they've
Uh-huh.
done is that they've charged the customer. Yeah, they charge the customer. They changed how much they charge the customer for the IKEA items, uh, for assembly, and then at the same time they increased the cut that they take from us. So their justification was, it's like, oh, now we take a 20% cut from you. Um, so you might think you'll make less money, but you'll actually be making more because more customers are going to be hiring you more often.
Oh, I see.
How is that a guarantee for me when all the IKEA jobs are literally random?
Yeah.
The smaller ones get randomly thrown out to whoever's schedule is available, and the bigger ones, it's like you throw your name in a hat and they pick one. Going back to the Uber thing, so a lot of the people that have been protesting and like, oh, boycott Uber and all this stuff when we're not going to drive, one of their big ticket items is healthcare. And
Hmm.
they fail to realize that by opting into this thing of healthcare, that they then are no longer independent contractors. If Uber were to hire these people on as employees, the
Hmm.
overhead alone would bankrupt the company. What made Amazon Flex as successful as it was? It's been they've been. I'll touch on it later, but Flex is disappearing. Flex will probably be pretty much gone within the next 2 years, but they're slowly phasing
Oh,
it out.
wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's slowly. It's no longer out here in Vegas. Prime Now deliveries are still available for Flex
Hmm.
drivers out here, but no longer the traditional Amazon Flex. They closed all those warehouses.
Wow.
Um, so what made it successful was the fact that we don't have to pay for insurance for our trucks. We don't have to pay for our trucks. We don't have to pay for gas for our trucks. All the overhead of operating distribution, we just completely get rid of.
Hmm.
We throw these guys some money to go deliver these packages for us, and they have to flip the bill for gas. I
Right.
was making $90
Maintenance,
for
insurance, all that. Yeah.
yeah, I was making $90 for a 5 hour shift, but I'd only get one 5 hour shift a day. But then I
Hmm.
was spending at least $40 in gas because of
Were
my
you real?
truck.
Oh, it was your truck.
The only
Jeez.
reason why I got the bigger $90 jobs was because I had a truck that could fit all those packages. But because,
Right.
it was this kind of this feedback loop. Back when I was driving with DoorDash, I had to make, let's see, it was a third of the money I would make always went back into my tank. That wasn't even
Uh,
accounting for the insurance and all that stuff. That's just for gas.
it's terrible.
So one of the big problems with the gig economy is this weird, they want to be successful, they want to get more clientele. The only way to get more clientele is to lower their prices. When you lower your prices, then it hurts us.
Yeah.
It hurts the people.
Service providers, right?
So the only thing I can think, because on TaskRabbit we set our own hourly rate. uh, it would be really upsetting if, for TaskRabbit to be successful and to make more money, if they were then to decide, you know what, you set your own rates and all that jazz, but we're gonna take more from you than we have before. So I think that there has to be some, when you sign up for these companies, there has to be some sort of contractual obligation, like a line in the sand. And that's all right, fine. So we're starting now. I'm grandfathered into this. Those new rules can apply to whoever else, because a lot of these times we don't get to see these things. They just pass new policies and don't even notify us of these things. We have to do digging on our own end. But going
You're
back to the
talking.
whole,
You're talking about the companies themselves, not the government.
no, yeah, the companies, yeah. I mean, the
Okay.
government has their own weird way of doing that stuff too, where they pigeonhole different policies, regulations, and bills into much larger bills. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, going back to the whole healthcare thing, I would agree with the fact that the kind of country that I would want to live in is, yes, healthcare for all, but that's not something that, at least for the U.S., is not something we can do right this minute. I can see it as being a reality down the road, provided that we
Hmm.
pave the path there properly. But the problem
Yeah.
that I saw with Obamacare, which transformed back into the Affordable Care Act, was the rush of it. And the main problem with it was that healthy people were paying for the care of sick people. And that kind of goes back, and you could argue the whole morals and ethics of it.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much how health insurance works.
Right. So, but by mandating that everyone has health care, even those that don't want it and or need it, just to
Right.
take care of the sick people, it's then it then like, well, why are you mandating? Like, I got fined 5 grand for not having health care the first year I was out of the army, because it was a lapse in between before I got my VA care.
Oh my.
Um, yeah, so 5 grand I had to pay to the U.S. government because I did not have health care. How is that fair to anyone? But the way I see it, it's like, yeah, there's so many things that in that spectrum that I totally agree with. It's it's the road there. So let's look at healthcare. What's the main crux of the problem with the medical industry as a whole, right? We Pharmaceuticals are outrageously expensive. I understand the reason why. A lot of it comes up with, there's marketing costs, there's R&D costs. These costs do need to be recouped. And what's the way around that? Okay, well, a lot of these things, once they're fully made and developed, it's then kind of like an open source thing. That's why we have generics. That's
Right.
one of the things. On the back end of it, there's a lot of lobbyists for a lot of pharmaceutical company alter it, or
Yeah.
it's little things like that that kind of stack up. Same thing with I can't believe I'm going to say this because I'm totally against it, but this whole like student debt, like
Yeah.
just becoming a doctor alone, like the like a decade plus worth of schooling and the amount of debt that you have to incur, because that's a full-time job just going to school to be
Uh-huh.
in the medical field. So there's the issue
Right.
with that. Like, there's so many other there's an educational issue that's going on. There's the whole lobbyist pigeonholing bills and stuff, and and then with the pharmaceutical industry, and then like $100 for saline solution to be billed on your medical visit when it's like 80 cents worth of water and salt, basically. It's
Mhm.
like all these things that are outrageously and grossly overpriced. And do I understand why to some degree? Well, yeah, all right. So if the hospital is going to be making any kind of money to be operational, it has to charge certain markups. The company that makes it wants to make a profit, so they have to charge a markup. But we're talking like 10,000% markup. That's ridiculous. It's
Mhm.
kind of like back when Martin Shkreli bought that AIDS medicine and then jacked the price up overnight. I
Oh,
mean,
it's ridiculous.
as much as I'm all for capitalism and stuff, there's a certain level of gratuity, something that's just so grossly like pushing the bounds where it's like, well, all right, hold on, that's a bit much. All right.
Yeah.
So I think that as far as the gig economy is concerned, I have noticed that on TaskRabbit, if you log in on your desktop into the TaskRabbit website, you log into your Tasker account and all that, they have offers. And
Mhm.
so there's an offer for a third party medical or whatever. Basically, all the offers page is it's different things that you can buy and get yourself into, and then TaskRabbit gets a cut. It's just advertising. It's just advertising space.
Uh,
So, but it would be cool if something were to come from all of this. If some sort of viable option for people that are choosing to do this full time. Just to kind of throw this out there, I'm writing a book. It's called Shelter. It's post-apocalyptic. But when it comes to the gig economy, uh, I do have a thing that's in the book that is kind of like my vision of what the gig economy is in the future. And I can easily see a lot of the jobs, at least in the US and further down the road all over the world, kind of being pushed to this whole dropping the 9 to 5 thing and doing work like what we do. And one of
mhm.
the things that I had thought about is like, well, what if someone made like some sort of app, some sort of platform where it was like McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Wendy's, where you go on this app, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, so I have my food handler's card, I have my profile, I'm all decked out. Okay, what shifts are available? Oh, there's a shift at McDonald's available. Click. Oh, there's a shift at Wendy's available. What time? Yeah, I'll do that one. You know, and
Uh-huh.
So I'm not like, it sounds really rough coming off the top of my head, but something to that effect. You can have one person working at McDonald's on payroll, one person working in that building if you
And then
wanted,
everybody else just
and
like is
everyone
rolling
else is an independent
gig.
contractor. The
Wow.
individual people would make so much more money. So minimum wage working flipping burgers, right? Or minimum wage plus $3 an hour for flipping
So
burgers. You could
I
make
guess
assistant manager levels pay at Burger Flipper.
that's that individual. So like, so I guess this is I guess this kind of I didn't know you were going to bring this up, but this is the crux of the conversation that I wanted to have with you, okay? Like the effects on the individual person, right? Like we experience that, you and I, of being in the gig economy, of like doing the gig economy while you do some other, or doing the gig economy as a full-time thing. We've experienced both of those, right? But our society as a whole, what would our society look like if almost every job became this contractor thing, you know? Like where there are no real nine to
Oh,
getting benefits, there's no 401ks anymore, there's no, you know, health insurance anymore. Like you got to buy it all yourself, you know, no dental, no vision. Like what does that look like for us as a society? Is that something that we really want, or would that be like some terrible future, you know?
um, so my vision of it would actually be really freaking awesome. I think
Okay.
that people would have a lot more control over not just where their money is going, but like this whole idea, the whole gig economy mindset is owning
Mm-hmm.
your success. And let's be honest, even in the gig economy, I'll be honest, like I feel very successful and I'm working for myself and all this stuff and arranging my own
Right.
jobs, being my own boss. But at the end of the day, I'm on the platform TaskRabbit.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen and I could be vanished off the platform in the blink of an
Or
eye.
the platform could vanish.
Exactly. Like so many different things can happen to where that's not me owning my success. So,
Right.
but given said that sad reality, the whole premise of the gig economy is so that people can be successful without having to do the whole 9 to 5 thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you are right. This is a clear and present issue. Is that there's a lot of other avenues, opportunities that can be warranted to people through traditional 9 to 5 work, and that is all these additional benefits.
Yeah.
So, like obviously, like I said, I'm coming from the privileged position of having my medical design the way that it is. What about the guy that's working in the gig economy that has 2 kids? Let's say one of them's autistic. Let's say this kid needs like weekly counseling, or let's say they need certain medical stuff or whatever. That
Mm-hmm.
the gig economy, no matter how good and beneficial it could be, the medical costs alone of getting your loved one, your family member taken care of, that's to for the lack of a better term, that's a massive financial burden, and
No, no kidding. I
as
couldn't even imagine.
wonderful as the gig economy is, I can't say that it'd be so beneficial to where you can continue your success as well as flipping the bill for stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for you, Mace.
Hit me.
So you said that you believe that the path that I laid out is something that would be beneficial for our country, but we're not ready for it, and we need to lay the groundwork to be able to get there.
Right. So,
What is that groundwork?
so when I think of like universal healthcare, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I I think the notion of it, I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing. Like, oh, that's one less thing for everyone to worry about. We're kind of
It's
like
VA for everybody, not
essentially,
just for Mace.
So I think it would be a great thing for everyone. Now there are some things that go along with that. Like, would our taxes increase? Absolutely. Someone has to flip the
For
bill.
sure. Yeah, the
Someone
taxes are definitely going to go up.
someone has to flip the bill somewhere. So
I mean, so let me see. So the average monthly health insurance, $440 per month, while a family plan is an average of $1,168 per month. And then on top of that, you got the what is the other costs? Every time you see your doctor, you're paying like 20 bucks for a copay.
that adds
So
up.
like, yeah. So we take that, right? We turn that into taxes. There we go. Or I don't know who's to say it wouldn't even be less than. I haven't read studies. I'm just looking at the numbers on, the average cost of health insurance right now.
Yeah, so the way I could see it working in the future is if we were to do something like that, we would all have to kind of be on board with it. And I'm not just saying the people,
Yeah.
I mean every department that kind of funnels back into that. So I'm saying when it comes to the educational issues that we have on that path there, those roadblocks, those issues, the government pigeonholing and lobbying and all that stuff, those things kind of need to be rectified. All right, this whole stance against, hey, if a medicine is found to be working, then we shouldn't allow, it'd be immoral of us to put harsh patents on that so that a generic version of it couldn't be made. The polio vaccine, the creator of it never patented it because he wanted it out and available. And what happened? We got rid of polio. It'd be kind of like if they discovered the miracle cure for cancer and they held it behind a paywall. That would be probably a massive immoral justice to all of humanity.
I think they, God, what is the name? Is it hepatitis? No. There's this disease that gets passed around through people using needles. And there was a company that came up with like pretty much a cure for it, but they made the price on it so exorbitant that
it's Hep C.
There you go. That's what it is. Yeah, I mean, so that's exactly that right there. That's the situation you're discussing, the hepatitis C situation.
Yeah, so a situation like that, yeah, I think it's the people that are involved in kind of making that roadblock, or they're bankrupt morally. It's like, I'm all for capitalism. I'm all for staking your claim as a company or individual or whatever, and owning your success and all that jazz. But if you're going to be able to have something that can help and benefit the entire world, I'm not saying you shouldn't make money off of it, but there's a certain line where when is enough enough? Mm-hmm. So I think we can all agree to that stand. But I wish that we would be ready now. But the example that we had before was to kind of push it out now, and how are we going to pay for it? Well, let's just have the wealthy pay for it. Let's have people that can afford to pay for it. Oh, wait, you can't afford healthcare? Okay, we're going to fine you for not having healthcare because you couldn't have. That was my situation. Just got out of the Army. Didn't have a job. Like, all these different factors. I can't afford healthcare. So I got fined for not having it. So it's just one of those things where it just doesn't make any sense at the end of the day. I think it's more so unfair,
Yeah, so I guess I was still trying to get out of you, like, what is the path forward? Like, what would need to happen before that's something that we can have in this country?
That's what I said. Is that we all got to get on the same page, not just...
We all have to get on the same... Okay.
Not just people. I mean, like, the departments that, not just in our government, but like even like private enterprises and stuff like that. We all got to kind of like push towards the same goal.
I'll tell you who's never going to be on that same page.
Who?
The health insurance companies are just going to go out of business.
So,
like, they're literally going to go out of business for sure.
If I think Ben Carson, during the presidential elections back in 2016, one of the things that he was talking about was opening borders. Okay, because when you have competition, everyone wins. It forces companies to be more competitive with each other, and at the end of the day, the person wins. And when I say open the borders, I mean like wide scale, not just with medical. Like, for example, I live in Nevada, so I'm stuck with statewide Nevada rates for my car insurance. It's $220 a month for my insurance, and that's bare minimum. Out in California, I was paying $40 a month.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference.
And it's all based on weird regulations and stuff. So, for example, in Nevada, the way that they calculate your insurance rate, half of it is your driving history. The other half is your credit score. If you have a bad credit score, they literally charge you more.
For car insurance? That doesn't make any sense.
It's bizarre, but that's what... because when I switched over from Geico to AAA, I was like, I don't know why it's so expensive. I was paying way less in California. And it's like, well, you live
Yeah.
in Nevada. Nevada, they go off of your credit score,
Wow, that's nuts.
which makes no sense. You would think that someone that has a bad credit score probably can't afford, just like thinking of it, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. God, man, that's. Let me see. We had another question. What's going to happen in the next recession? Oh, let me see. We had another one first. Our guys in the IT field are familiar with it. I'm in IT. Mace, he's got his HVAC, and he is working in like pretty much handyman, furniture sort of thing with TaskRabbit at the moment. That's his main thing. I'm working IT with Field Nation. What's going to happen in the next recession? What apps are going to survive? I feel like in recessions, things that like dollar stores, thrift stores, they kind of boom, you know? Um, and then on top of that, like these gig things, like let's say Uber, where your ride costs less than taking a taxi. Um, I feel like that's still going to do well. Lyft, where your ride costs less and is more personable than taking a taxi, that's still going to do well. Maybe TaskRabbit might take a hit during a recession because there's going to be like less money flowing around to pay for the services of, having people assemble stuff. There's going to be less people buying stuff that need to be assembled because people are out of work and things of that
Certain
nature.
categories, yeah, certain categories will take a hit. Other ones will boom. For example, I've done a lot of moving jobs that are for people that got evicted from their apartment or their house, and they I need someone out here. I have to move all my stuff out in the next 48 hours. So in the event of a recession or something, like, yeah, I may not be building a bunch of IKEA furniture, but I probably will be moving a lot of people's stuff from their houses into storage. Different things like that. So, and certain things are evergreen. Okay, so I get home repair stuff, like, oh, someone's light switch doesn't work, or this, that, and the other. People, like, when your house is not functioning the way that it needs to, it doesn't matter if there's a recession or not. If you want to live comfortably and live in the modern era, you need to have someone to come out and take care of that for you. So certain things are evergreen to the fact of they're not recession proof, but they're kind of needs that we have to live in the modern society. So like, for example, like with a lot of the Field Nation stuff, these companies, like, yeah, they're going to get hit, but they need to keep operating.
They're still going to need to get the work done. Exactly. If the register goes down, they're not just going to leave it down because that's going to be even more of a cost for them. If every day that their register is down, that's money coming out of their pocket versus this one fixed cost of just having somebody come out and fix it. They're gonna need to do that.
That explains Walmart and Target. Then their registers are always down.
Is that right?
You have no idea.
I've never experienced that before.
Let me just sidetrack this real quick since I brought it up. I would rather have half of the registers be replaced with the you scan your own stuff and go. I would just rather go in and do that than wait like 20 registers, but only 2 people working, and there's crazy lines. Just let me bag up my own stuff. Anyway,
so how about a future alternative to employment? How about a lot of us becoming unemployed because of automation? Like, you look at a Amazon warehouse, fulfillment center, there's freaking robots just driving everywhere. What is it? Tesla factory. There's machines building everything. The people are in the planning stages. The people are in the management stages. There's not people actually on the floors building these things like there were 20, 30, 40 years ago. A lot of these jobs are disappearing. In the next few years, Tesla's talking about having a fleet of Teslas driving around as Tesla taxis. What's going to happen to Uber? What about the automated Uber car?
Well, there's a lot of the automated Uber car gave us a clear and present reason why we need a human driver behind it. So I'm not really too concerned about the Uber drivers being taken over by. I still think that let's say that they allow self-driving cars on the road. I still think it's going to be mandated, at least in the
Yeah,
U.S., that a human being is behind the
a
wheel
human
at all
being.
times.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Mace. I did a test drive in a Tesla a couple months ago, and they have it right now so that you can set the automation on the highways. But you can't do it on regular streets yet. I think there's like legislation against it or something like that. So, I test drive it on the road, nice smooth ride. We get to the highway. He's like, okay, turn in. And I'm like, all right, I did it. Put my hands on the steering wheel. I'm not controlling anymore. I'm not controlling the pedal anymore. I flick the freaking, the turn signal, and it switches lanes. It knows if cars coming in towards you. It can see 360 degrees, Mace. 360 degrees. No human can do that. These
All
things are way safer than humans. Humans are the error factor. Humans are the threat. Humans are the danger.
So that's the problem. So I totally agree with what you're saying, and I believe it
Yeah.
too. But that only works if the cars are talking to each other. If you have a Tesla driving on the road that's self-driving, it's wonderful. But if all the other cars around it are not automated, it doesn't matter how safe that one Tesla is. All the other cars around it, it makes it equally as bad. What makes it awesome
Yeah.
is if it's like this hive mind sense. If you have nothing on the nothing, all the cars on the road are all automated, and they're a part of a network that can speak to one another. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a lane change here. Okay, let me back up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah. When they're
makes it
talking to it,
truly, yes,
that
is
would that
be
would
able
be
to
amazing.
communicate. So
That
here's a
would be
little
freaking amazing.
here's a little thought experiment for you because we live in America
Yeah.
and bureaucracy is crazy.
Uh
Um,
huh.
we have that installed. That's what it is. Okay, cars are self-driving cars can drive not just on the freeway but anywhere. You put in your
Mm-hmm.
GPS, they understand road signs, all that stuff. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're leaving the bar drunk as a skunk. I'm going to get in my car and drive home, but I'm not going to drive. I'm going to sit in the passenger seat, put in my GPS, my car is going to drive me home.
Mm-hmm.
Someone runs a red light, whatever, doesn't matter if it was a human driver, if it was a self-driving, doesn't matter, runs a red light, you hit it, right?
Yeah.
uh Cop comes over, minor damage, nothing too crazy, but the car's banged up. Is the car, that's it? Or is it like, hey, you were drunk, I mean, you should have been sober driving? Well, my car was the one that was driving, not me. I mean,
I
bureaucratically, we would look at it as the person is still
I think
responsible.
I think it depends. I think it depends. So how things are right now, the human is supposed to be awake, alert, and be ready to take over the vehicle at all time. Um, at the last Tesla, I think it was like the automate meeting or something. Did you see this thing? It was pretty long.
um
Did you see it?
I probably did. I've been seeing a lot of stuff lately. The newest one I
So,
watched was Mercedes
okay.
electric car. It's pretty
So
dope.
so what Elon was talking, I haven't seen Mercedes one, but what Elon was talking about, he's saying that within a few years with this Tesla taxi fleet, they're talking about, piece by piece removing control from human drivers. So they're talking about removing the pedal, removing the steering wheel, removing the gear shifter, and then there's just going to be seats, not really any way to interact with the thing except for through the dashboard and telling it where you want to go. Like, in that case, there's no steering wheel, there's no pedal, there's no gear shifter. The car gets into an accident. How can you be to blame? It's impossible. It's literally impossible. It's like, how can I control this thing, which is impossible for me to control? The machine is controlling itself.
Yeah, in
So
that
insurance is
situation,
going
then
to have to take
definitely.
over in that case.
Like some minority port shit. They don't even control the cars.
You don't control a car. Yeah. He's talking about doing this within the next 2 years. That's 2021.
Well, the bureaucracy of the U.S. government is going to put a hold on that, so
Yeah.
it'll happen.
That's okay.
I'm very confident that it will happen. And as much as I love the person that I voted for, I do kind of wish that he would kind of get on board with certain things that are advancing with
Yeah.
technology. But it,
I mean, the thing is, like, technology always moves faster than bureaucracy.
yeah,
Like, technology just paves forward. You know, it doesn't wait. But bureaucracy, they got to talk about it, think about it. Let's do some studies. You know, and there's good in that to make sure that everything's safe. But then you get the special interests that come along, and they're like, slide you a couple of donation dollars,
Yeah.
make sure that doesn't come to see the light, brother. And that's when we get some problems. So let me see. Nesto says y'all didn't see Elon on Joe Rogan podcast. He said at some point the human is going to be the dangerous part of driving. I mean, humans are dangerous right now. Like, every single accident that an automated Tesla has been because somebody was driving the car. Somebody else, a human, was driving the other car and made it. Like May said,
except
if
for the
every
one.
car was automated. Well, there was one that
There was a guy that drove directly into a truck because it was the same color as the sky, so the computer couldn't tell the difference between the two.
Okay, all right. So that I never heard of.
Yeah, that was the first fatality.
Okay, wow, that's crazy.
But it's gotten better since then. They have like depth sensors now and shit. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is,
you gotta crack a few eggs.
Yeah, so the thing is this as well, right? On all of their cars that are currently on the road that are doing automated, they've got machine learning that's learning from every single one of them. This thing is exponentially getting better and better. It's not linearly getting better and better. It's exponentially getting better and better because there's more cars getting on the road. You know, each one of these cars is going to be receiving more data to help train the models, the ML models. And so this might be happening sooner than they expect.
I think one of the coolest videos on a Tesla vehicle that I've seen is CGP Grey. He did an hour-long video that's comprised of hours and hours worth of content that he edited of him driving on the loneliest road in America. And it was awesome because he was showing off the car and all this stuff. But the thing that I thought was really interesting, the loneliest road in America is the longest stretch between gas stations. It's the longest stretch of road between rest stops, and it's in Nevada. So it's like from Reno all the way like over into Utah, and it's like almost 300 miles. And so he did the math, and it's like it's possible to drive in a Tesla on this road, but you're cutting it so razor thin that you could get stuck in the middle of nowhere. So what he found was, with a little bit of research, is the charger for the Tesla, the car to charge it up, there's an adapter for it for RV parks. So he found an RV park on that route, and it took him 8 hours. It was like 12 hours or something to charge it up.
Yeah.
Because it's not the same voltage and wattage going through. Anyway, but that's not the point that we're even.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Kind of going back, and I want to filter this back into the gig economy. I was at Domino's a couple months ago, and I saw they were prototyping one of their self-driving cars. They had like all the little gadgets on the top of it, and it had all this like these decals saying what it was. So basically, the whole back seat, you open up a door, and there's like a cabinet, and then the car unlocks the cabinet, and then you take your pizza out when it drives up to your house. They had to have people in it, because it's part of the testing and everything. But it made me think. So Domino's is like with Toyota, and they're making this whole, or I think it was Ford. Excuse me. They're doing this whole self-driving car thing. That's a lot of R&D costs. That just the testing and everything for that costs more than what you're paying the driver to just. So from the financial, like I love technology and how it advances forward, but then sometimes I look at it and I'm like from the capitalist side, like I wouldn't invest money into doing something like that. Stick with what we know. But if we stuck with what we know, then we would go nowhere. One of the things I thought of. Go.
In terms of that, if I could just stop you for a second.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I feel like that's more of like a short-term look at it. Like long-term, if you were to be able to cut out drivers completely, let's say after 2021, like what would be the cost savings from that R&D from that period of time is probably, you know, like a drop in the bucket compared to the savings. Like in the short term, sure, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I'll let you continue on.
Well, you're right. It is all short term. One of the other things I thought, because hey, you want to cut overhead. That's one of the best ways you can grow. Like if you can keep everything else operating as smoothly as you can, but cut down how much you're paying to have that stuff take care of business,
Yeah.
then great. So one of the things I thought of before was DoorDash.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that DoorDash works is it's not. People like to think DoorDash is this gig economy food delivery thing. They're not. DoorDash is a marketing company. They make commission if you go on the DoorDash app and order food from a restaurant because you ordered food and that was your gateway to order food. They get a commission on top of it. So
Right.
DoorDash makes no money off of like DoorDash, Postmates, all these people. They make no money off of the delivery fee. They make their money off of their commissions. So they're marketing companies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why I thought that this was a stupid idea once I figured that out. But my idea was like, can't the pizza delivery places just do DoorDash and Postmates and stuff like this? Well, the reason why is exactly like what I just said. It wouldn't be beneficial for them because they would not only be having to keep their fingers crossed that this driver would come pick it up and deliver it perfectly on time every single time to uphold their branding. But at the same time, they would have to pay commissions on any orders that came in through those sites. So, yeah. So R&D for the future. Let's get everything automated.
Automate everything. So this doesn't have as much to do with gig economy, but I do enjoy talking politics with you. So in terms of us agreeing that automation is the way forward, um, how do you feel about Andrew Yang's proposal of the $1,000 a month for every adult over the age of 18?
Oh, what is that called?
The
Universal
dividend.
basic income.
Well, yeah, he calls it the freedom dividend, but yeah, it's universal basic income. To help deal with automation, I think his big thing is like, you know, a lot of people in the Midwest, um, middle-aged white men, pretty much, they make their living as truck drivers, and they make a good living at that. And automated trucks are coming, and they're coming very soon. They're going to be able to completely do away with these human truck drivers because it'll be safer, it'll be more efficient, and it's going to save them, probably billions of dollars over the course of, God knows how many years by automating all of these. Um, and, he's saying there's going to be riots and all sorts of craziness unless if we figure out a path forward. And just saying teach the truck drivers how to code is not an answer.
Okay, so universal basic income or the freedom,
Yeah.
what's it called?
Freedom dividend, yeah.
All right, so you said $1,000. $1,000 in Mobile, Alabama, and $1,000 in New York City are two completely different dollar amounts. $1,000 in Mobile, Alabama, you could live a pretty ritzy life, okay, comfortable.
Yeah.
In New York City,
You broke?
you broke.
Broke is a joke.
So that kind of would filter into like a state by state thing, if it were to work properly. Kind of like
Well, I don't think the idea of it is to be able to allow people to live comfortably or even to live where we're living at all. The idea is it gives people a little bit of a buffer, like a little bit of flexibility to be able to transition into maybe entrepreneurship, a new job, some different training, going back to school, whatever,
Okay. So all right, let's just for sake of brevity, let's say it's $1,000 a month, right? As this
Yeah.
buffer. Where does this buffer come from? Taxes, correct?
I think he was saying it would be a VAT tax, where it's able to actually capture some of the wealth generated by, the Amazons and the Googles who are oftentimes paying zero in taxes. But then the counter argument to the VAT tax is usually that falls on the lowest income folks. And his argument to that is that you can make it so that it doesn't, you're not taxing extra on the staples, just on like the more expensive goods and stuff and things.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll real quick. I'll totally 100% agree with the fact that corporations they have ways and there are loopholes for them to get out of paying high dollar amounts for stuff. But the headline of them paying $0 in taxes is just crazy. There's this thing that's called a payroll tax.
Right.
You have to, all of your employees, every dollar that they earn, it's automatic. It doesn't matter what you try to finagle, it goes through every single person. So, and it just goes even further from there. That kind of more so points towards, let me use Apple for a perfect example. Apple's an American-based company, correct? So Apple, the reason why there's a lot of taxes that Apple doesn't have to pay for is because they don't hold their patents in the USA. So because a lot of their patents are not in the USA, the US government cannot tax those goods because those patents are held in like Ireland and Belgium. They're held in like these tax havens. So only that country can tax that particular good because that's just how those tariffs work. So it's kind of like a weird misconception. I mean, yeah, yeah, we all know it's true that they do get away with not paying for a lot of stuff. But all right, so let's look at it like this. If you took Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, like all the richest people that reside in the United States, right? Let's say the top 10 individuals, the top 10 billionaires in the USA that live here and pay taxes here. If you took every single penny that those individuals had and put it towards the U.S. government, it would be gone within like a month or two. Their total combined wealth is nowhere near our deficit.
I think that the point that you're trying to make would be a better argument against somebody like what's his name? Old guy, Democratic Socialist.
Oh, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, so that argument would be something better against Bernie Sanders, but in terms of because that's generally how he wants to raise taxes. It's on the individuals, not necessarily the companies. But I think that for the guy who's trying to get the freedom dividend, it's more so about the companies, or I guess how they're avoiding paying taxes in your tax haven situation.
Well, I paid VAT tax before.
The VAT taxes. Yeah, can you explain that? Because I've never really fully got an understanding on it.
All right, so that's weird. So in a lot of countries over in Europe, all the like when you go out and buy food, or if you go out and buy a good, you don't. It's like when you come in America and you buy an Xbox, it's like $300, and then you go to the register and it's like $325. Like, whoa, where'd that come from? Overseas, it's baked into the price, but when you go to leave and you purchase something, you get this VAT tax. Because it's specialized. All the taxes of the good and all the tariff and everything that's broken down for the additional money on top of the cost of it, that's all baked into the price when you see it there. The VAT tax, that's a very specialized thing that goes to where it's supposed to go. In the US, we have our state sales tax, and then depending on where you buy certain things, you'll have a federal tax. Very, very rare that anyone will ever see federal tax put on to their thing. It's usually like weird government like shit stuff, government areas that you would purchase things from. So the VAT tax, I don't want to butcher this. So when I was in, I had a layover in Germany, and I bought soda. It cost me $6 for one of these. Yeah. And that's because all the little taxes were baked into it, and plus it was an additional, like, I think the equivalent for us was 75 cents or whatever it is for the euro. And that additional fee was on top of it. And I'm like, what is this? But that goes to wherever it goes. And in this situation, all the money collected from all those sales, if I were to buy something from Amazon, if I were to buy something from anywhere, that money would then all kind of be collected into a pool and then distributed as necessary for what it's supposed to be for.
Yeah.
Anyone that's ever bought a video game on G2A, you're paying a VAT tax. You always see that when you don't buy games from G2A. They're scumbags, but you get cheap games. But you do there's a VAT tax because they are a European-based company. I think they're like Ukraine or something. I don't know. There's some shady area. I just can't see.
All right, so I'm looking at Investopedia, right?
Okay.
A value-added tax is a consumption tax placed on a product whenever value is added at each stage of the supply chain, from production to the point of sale. The amount of VAT that the user pays is on the cost of the product, less any of the cost of materials used in the product that have already been taxed. So Andrew Yang is saying that he wants to add this tax onto every, let's say, Google ad that is shown, on every purchase that is made at Amazon. Every time that some AI is being sold or used or whatever by whoever, or Facebook ad is shown. And he's saying that these taxes on these companies that are oftentimes getting away, not paying the taxes on them because they're in tax havens, would go towards the freedom dividend. And to be honest with you, I've heard this a bunch of times, and I've never actually taken the time to truly understand it, and so I still don't fully comprehend it.
I don't either.
Okay. All right, maybe we'll shelf this one.
The VAT tax part is the hard part to really understand, mainly because we don't.
Yeah.
It's not
We're
a normal
Americans.
thing here.
Yeah, we're American. Yeah.
I had a live stream before with another fellow streamer, a part of the Twitch Political Coalition, Everyday Progressive. Love talking with him. But one of the things that we discussed was the whole universal basic income. And the arguments that we kind of went back and forth on kind of stemmed from this whole living wage thing, which is a myth. This whole living wage thing, it's how do you define that? No one wants to define it. Like, you can't say that having a car should be added into your living wage. It's a privilege. Driving, having your license and stuff, that's a privilege. It's not like a given right that we have. It's if you meet the requirements, you can have one. If you maintain the prerequisites, you can keep driving it. But I think a roof over your head and food, that should be your baseline. But no one is fighting for that definition of the living wage. People are fighting for being able to have extra money to go buy the newest iPhone, or have extra money to go do whatever around the town. So that's kind of why I've always really kind of been against it, because the whole...
Maybe. All right, well, so living wage, from my understanding, from what most of the liberals that are pushing for it, from California to DC to New York to Washington State, is $15 an hour. If you're doing that full time, that's $30,000 a year.
Which I think
those places.
Isn't that still at the poverty level though?
I feel like that's pretty low. Like for those places, if you were to take that 30,000 to, let's say, like Mobile, Alabama, like, you're doing pretty well. But 30,000 in Seattle is not good. 30,000 in San Francisco is really bad. New York City, terrible. Washington D.C., that's rough. Unless if you're living on the outskirts of Washington D.C. So I mean, the point that you brought up about nobody ever truly defining a living wage, it makes sense. Like, I've never seen anybody do the math. how did you come up with that $15 per hour number?
Basically, just because it's more. That's it. So,
Because it's what?
because it's more. You
It's
know,
more. Yeah.
just more.
It's like double what the regular.
Well, I think federal
Federal
minimum wage
wage
is like
is
7,
7.4 or something like that,
something
7.41.
crazy. I know out here it's like 8.25,
Oh,
which is
okay.
ungodly low, which is why I work in the gig economy.
Yeah. That's
So,
bro, I would never work for freaking $8 an hour. You better get out of
no.
here.
nah. I mean,
I will slap you with the bamboo stick. You offer me that again.
so prime example is the U.S. military. Okay, that's kind of the experience that I have to go off of. So when I was in the military, I was married and I had a kid and all that stuff. So every month I got BAH and BAS. So BAS was like a food stipend essentially, which was like I think $250, $300 a month, and my BAH, which is my housing allowance up in the wilderness of New York, was $1,200 a month. So it was about 1550, no, about $1,500 a month, let's say, that I got for my rent and my food. And because that in the area that I lived, that was roughly how much it cost to pay rent, and that was like a good average for how much a single individual should have to pay for food.
Oh, sorry. How much? How much were we talking about here?
It was 1,500.
1,500.
$1,500 a month. So that was was my
How
BAH,
much is that?
my BAS.
1,500 times 12. That's $18,000 a year.
Yeah,
That's pretty low.
right. But no, that was on top of
Them
the
covering your rent.
no, that was just for rent and food. So on top of that
Oh, I
was
am
my
lost
base
in the
pay.
sauce, Mace. Lost in the sauce.
So
All right.
so my base pay when I first got
Yeah.
in was $1,500 a month. When I
Okay.
got out, it was a little over $2,000 a month for
Okay.
base pay on top of all that other stuff. So every
Yes.
year we get $100 increase onto our pay. It's like, oh, you've been in for another year. Here's an extra $100
Uh-huh.
kind of thing. So and then also as you advance and get promoted and stuff, you make more money as well.
Yeah.
So that's why by the time I got out of the military, I was making about $4,300 a month. In my last year,
That's really good.
my last year in. So
Uh-huh.
so
That's everything included.
yeah, that was everything included.
Oh, okay, okay.
But
I
it
gotcha.
changes though, because when I was in Korea, my BAH, my housing allowance, because I'm staying in the barracks, but I have a kid, so I'm still entitled to my BAH. So I'm not in the U.S. and I'm not on any base in the U.S. So the only way that they can do the math for how much money for my housing allowance is based off my home of record, which is Southern California. So for my zip code in Southern California, it was $2,000 a month. So instead of in New York, I was getting like $1,200 a month for rent. But then when they did the conversion when I was in Korea, it was $2,000 a month just for the rent.
Yeah.
And it changes per location. That's kind of the key thing is it's region based. So when you do this whole like conversation of living wage, it makes more sense to not have it be this universal number for everybody, because like I said, $15 depending on the city is a drastically different number. So like $15 minimum wage out here would be amazing. $15 an hour where you live would be garbage,
Right.
So it's two completely different things. So when you book it by a region, that's when it makes a lot more sense, which is very similar to the situation that we have now. It's kind of like we live in this very, very capitalistic minded society to where, hey, if you're going to live in an area, that the cost of living is higher, you're most likely to make more money. The downside of it, though, is just because you make, let's say, $15 to $20 an hour where you work, you can't afford to live in that same location. So my dad, he provided all sorts of stuff for us. He ended up buying us. We went from when I was a kid living in a mobile home up to living in a 7-bedroom house. But the only reason why we did that is because they only spent $300,000 on that house, because it was 2 hours away from LA, where my dad would have to commute to work back and forth all the time. That was a big thing about living in the Inland Empire. people that lived in the Inland Empire didn't work in the Inland Empire. They'd buy these nice big houses off in the middle of nowhere, but they would all work all off in the city.
Right.
So
That makes sense.
it's like, even if we did do a region based thing, people are not going to really, it's really hard to kind of try to find what. That's why the whole living wage thing just numbs my mind. And I just think of Cortez, and I just ugh.
Oh yeah. AOC.
No, I get it. Her heart's in the right place. Like the whole Green New Deal thing.
Yeah.
I totally agree. We need to do something about it. But then she just keeps talking, and then I'm like, all right, you just stop. I don't want to get caught in a tangent on that.
I love me some AOC. She's hardcore. Let me see. We got Impossible Meaning. She says $2,000 per month in California is enough. Period. I think it depends on what part of California.
Yeah.
Like I was in San Diego for a bit before I moved here to Seattle, and $2,000 a month down there actually not too bad. Yeah, $2,000 a month down there was not too shabby. Like, you know, obviously you'd want to make more than that, but you know, there were some areas there where you could get rent for like $1,000, and then you get a roommate, right? Let's say you're there with your girlfriend or boyfriend, and that breaks it down to you know, $500 a month, and then you know, you have the rest of your expenses, and that's really not that bad, to be honest with you. Like, you know, you could easily have your expenses as low as like $1,200 or $1,500. You're making $2,000 a month. That's, you know, that's your expenses and then some extra to save up and whatnot for a rainy day or for retirement or whatever. But, you know, obviously you still want to make more than that. You see, Field Nation is the only platform for the gig economy and IT. No, there's also Work Market. There might be more, but I also know Work Market is one that a lot of people like working with. TechWise too. Oh, so we got somebody here who loves AOC, dude. Mace, I love me some AOC, bro. I love me some AOC and some Bernie. Yes, those two.
Yeah, they can go do whatever with each other. So,
but just so you guys know, I'm like very liberal, and Mace is pretty conservative. But like both of us have some like views that would, you know, work on the other side as well. But we enjoy having our conversations. We don't see eye to eye on everything.
Well, yeah, we may not see eye to eye, but we at least appreciate each other speaking our piece.
Yeah, so, that's true. Absolutely.
No, I can't stand. Like Bernie, he's just a living meme, and AOC, she's like, here's the thing. She wants to come forward and say, "Oh, I gotta stand up for this. Hold on." So AOC is like, "Oh, Green New Deal. We need to save the planet. Yay!"
Yeah.
And then the very next day, she's seen getting into a 17-mile-per-hour gas guzzler. My thing is, if you want to come out and say that the rest of the world has to adhere to this new outlandish, crazy plan that you have that you think is going to save and solve everything when you yourself don't even have all the facts, and then you don't even want to be an example for what you think is the best cause going forward, I have no faith in you whatsoever. I would have far more respect for that woman if she were to say that crazy Green New Deal thing and then live her life according to it. AOC doesn't even live in the district in which she was representing. You know, if you ever go on her Instagram, all she does is she's like she's the worst. She's a millennial, and has a seat of power, and it drives me nuts because if you go on her Instagram and all she does is like what all these like YouTubers and trendy people on. You know, she just flaunts off this big apartment that she has in this nice area of town. And it's like...
You mean the one that she got in D.C.?
No, there's one that she has in New York.
Oh, in New York. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never been to her Instagram. I'm on it right now.
Yeah, I've seen some of her live streams and I've seen some of her stories, and she's got this great apartment, and it's like, that doesn't look like your district. That's great. That's cool. Here's the thing. So, and I don't want to act like I'm talking trash about all Democrats. It's mainly AOC that I have a problem with, and Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders, and the list goes on. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent on this. I hate talking about that woman. She's just a bad example. That's it. It's like for my generation to finally have a seat in power, and that's the person that we get, it drives me nuts. So.
Yeah, I'm like looking through her Instagram. Let's see it. Maybe I'd have to have you send me like the one that you were.
Oh, it was a story. So the one that was in reference to, she was like making a smoothie or some shit and showing off her apartment.
Instagram stories, do those get saved or is that just like?
They can be saved like locally, but and you can also turn it into a post later. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, that. So
it's kind of like Snapchat.
Not here. Where they come and they go.
Yeah, I know that they stay up for 24 hours unless you dictate it otherwise.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Alrighty then. But yeah, to be honest with you, I've never actually the entire New Deal.
It's 5 pages long. It is probably on record for being one of the shortest proposals in all of the history of proposals.
What's this at? GND full language. Here we go. I see it here. Yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll take some dream to like actually read through it. It
takes like, it doesn't take long. It's really short. You could read it in like 10 minutes.
My question to you though,
hit me.
Tell me have is in the Green New Deal, does it say that individual people should get rid of their current vehicles if they're gas guzzlers and get like electric or more sustainable vehicles?
No, it doesn't say any of that. So the Green New Deal, the one that was voted on, it was ill prepared. So the reason why I say that is it's super short. There's no specifics on anything. It's all a fever dream. That's why it was a joke. That's why no one voted for it. Even the people, all the Democrats that were saying, yeah, let's vote for it. Yeah, let's make this a reality. And the Republicans said, all right, let's put it to a vote. That's why not a single person said yes, because it wasn't ready.
Okay.
So it was really stupid of them to back AOC when she first talked about it, because then the Republicans said, if we put it to a vote, we have you on record. Yeah. That was a super stupid move on the DNC. They should have been like, oh, it's a good idea. Keep it quiet. Let's take a couple years. Let's work on it. Let's refine it. No, the planet's gonna die in 10 months. We need to do this now, or whatever. So that's it. I'm telling you, I would have had far more respect for them, and they could have even swayed me. I don't want to say that I'm some sort of hippie environmentalist, but I'm not a climate change denier. I understand that we are polluting our planet, as it were, and we should take strides to improve those things. But we're not even the biggest cause of it. China is. There are multiple other countries that are contributing more than just the U.S. Should we do our part? Absolutely. But for her to go forward and say that the crux of the problem is on us, it's like a slap in the face of her own fellow citizens.
So I think I might have found the Green New Deal, but I'm not sure. Let's see, let me paste it. Is it cool if I paste it in your chat?
Yeah, if you want. I'm not gonna be able to see it. So.
Oh right, because you're on your tablet. I was gonna ask you to take a look.
So and tell me there was a couple revisions. So when the Green New Deal on her website was first put out, there was a line in it that said, "Provide a living wage to every working American."
Yeah.
Provide like a government fueled, like basically taxpayer dollars go towards this individual. Provide a livable stipend for everyone unwilling to work. That was the language, unwilling to work.
Yeah.
So that was in the original thing that was posted on her website. It was very quickly redacted and there was a new one put up, but it has been shown in the metadata of her actual website of the original PDF of being what it was.
Okay, sorry, I actually found it. All right.
Okay.
So I found the one that was on Congress's site. That was actually proposed and voted.
Yeah, that's basically the one that matters more than any of them.
I'll put the
So
link in the chat for that if anybody wants to take a look at it. Let me see. Uber Eats is robbing people.
tell me about
I've never
that.
actually driven for Uber Eats before, so yeah, welcome to tell us about it. Mace, have you ever driven Uber Eats before?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't, but I do have something I want to show you. So go ahead and keep talking since you brought up Uber.
Let me see. What other IT gig platforms did you say? The other one is Work Market. Let me see. I can get the link for you. Work Market. And so my brother's done it. He enjoys it. The benefits of doing is that they don't take a fee out of your cut. So whatever rate you negotiate with the company, that's what you get. Whereas on Field Nation, they're going to take a 10% finder's fee and then a 1.3% what is it called? Insurance fee if you have insurance. But the negatives of working with Work Market is that they don't have as much work that you can get as working on Field Nation. Field Nation gets a lot of work. But yeah, that's the link to get to Work Market. Work Market's website. And I still have never done Work Market before, and I want to. I'm just being a lazy lima bean. I'm not living up to true gig stacker, you know? If I want to be the one true gig stacker, I've gotta step my game up. I gotta do more than one gig. Can't just be doing one gig. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just take stacker out of my name. Just call it gig. Just call me gig. Gig
So
from
lazy.
now on. Yeah, dude. Mace, you're not stacking gigs either, dude.
My name's not Gigsta. All right, I'm not gonna.
That's true.
I'm not gonna spend forever looking for it. So I actually got a settlement from Uber, and I've never driven for them.
Are you serious?
So in their
How much did
last,
they send you? Was it like $13?
it was like what? It was like 10 cents or something like that. I got one.
Yeah.
I have one from Postmates too. I have them saved because I want to frame them.
Gig Slayer.
But they're not like the paper.
Oh, from Postmates.
Yeah, so I got one from Postmates and one from Uber, and it's like a normal
Yeah.
sheet of paper, but then there's also a check at the bottom. So it's not like a traditional size, so it's hard finding a frame that will actually fit them. But yeah, I'm saving them because one of these days I want to get them framed so I can hang them up. But
That's cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so I got a question from Sajid. He's asking if I'm learning on the fly regarding IT gigs. Pretty much what happened for me is that I had a brother who was doing Field Nation. He wanted to teach me and like help him with jobs. So for I think it was like maybe like 6 months to a year, he was teaching me and I was helping him on job. And then after a certain point in time, I felt comfortable to be able to do jobs on my own. So I started applying for jobs on my own. And then I was able to save up enough money to where I think it was like a year's worth of expenses saved up. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm making good enough money from this. It's way more money. It was like at least double what I was making at my day job. I was a kitchen planner at IKEA. I was making like $22 an hour. I was making minimum $40 an hour on Field Nation jobs, upwards of like $60 to $70 an hour. I'm like, you know, I think I should make the switch. So I went ahead and quit, and I've pretty much been doing this full time since then. And yeah.
so
Yeah,
you told
yeah,
your. Was there any more questions?
No, that was it.
All right, so you told your story and what introduced you. So here's what introduced me to the gig economy. Get the violin ready. It's a sad story. So my ex-wife took out a child support claim against me, even though I was already paying her. So it racked up a crazy amount of debt, and they started garnishing my wages. I'm just giving you the cliff notes. So it got to the point where I was working HVAC. I was working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. We're talking, $14 an hour, then jumping up to $21 an hour for your overtime. I was making really, really good money. But a lot of that was getting taken away. $500 from every single paycheck because we got paid weekly. So, and because it was a higher dollar amount, the way that the Riverside in County in California did it, anything above 40 hours, they took 100% of. So they would take the base 500 and then they would take all of the overtime.
Oh my
So
God.
I was working my ass off and I wasn't making any money. So I was like, I can't keep doing this. So I started out doing DoorDash and Postmates because that's, I had, you know, when I was in college, I did a little bit of Postmates. So that's kind of what I knew was the food delivery. But then over time, I found the handyman gigs, which was more in line with what I already did. And then that's kind of how I got into it. It's like, I can't have, like, this was a way for me not to get all this money garnished out of me. And just to make it a happier note, that entire $43,000 has now been erased off my credit score. It's all gone. And I didn't pay a penny for it.
Can we get a round of applause in the chat for Mace for that one?
Yes.
I
told her you can go in and erase this, or I can take you in for fraud because I have years and years of documentation of me paying you on time plus more. So,
yo, Mace, I'll tell you what, man. Like that story and so many other stories are why I'm so scared of being married and I am so serious.
But you got an awesome chick though, so you should be fine.
What was that?
You have an awesome chick, so you should be fine.
I mean, like you never know what's gonna happen in the future, though.
Who cares? We all want to see little Chiefs running around.
little gigs. Chief Bubba Gigs.
Chief Bubba Gigs. You can take them on jobs with you and stuff.
Oh my God. He said child support is fraud in itself. Oh my God. Oh, Lord of mercy. Lord of mercy. Wow. That's scary, dude. That is scary.
Yeah, it's like not every girl in the world is like that.
Man.
I've been with my beloved lady for 5 years now.
Little Black Panthers. Oh my God, sorry, what were you saying?
I've been with my lady for 5 years. It's the longest relationship I've had. And we've been doing great. So it's been getting better and better and better as time goes on.
Yeah, so that's how it needs to be. It's getting worse as time goes on. You need to make a change. That's good, dude. That's good. I'm really glad that you got the situation.
Well, let's see. How much did it cost me? It cost me $150 in gas.
Yeah.
It cost me $200 for the hotel for the 4 days I was out there, and then I guess that was about it. So.
Yeah.
But that's all it took. Like I had to drive out there and handle it with her, and it's like for years I couldn't have a normal job. I had to do something like gig economy just to like continue to be able to pay child support on top of everything else. I mean, he hasn't even lived with her in over a year, so. But
crazy.
It's like now that chapter is now closed in my life. If I wanted, I could go do a 9-to-5 job. If I wanted, I have that option. But and I spoke about this with the missus. The amount of money that I'm making now, if I were to go do a 9-to-5 job, I would be taking a massive pay cut. I would have
right?
What?
Oh, I said, is that right?
Yeah, because I may not work a 40-hour work week, but if I work, like this past week, I made, oh wow, I actually made a lot. I don't want to this is not like me bragging. I'm just trying to level with you guys. I made 600 from one job, 300 from another, 250 today, and then there was another job that was like another 200. I've been averaging around $200 a day. There was a big one where I made 600. That was the biggest tip I ever received. For all the hours I worked, it was 400. But he was so pleased with all the work that I did. That was the one where I was fixing all the mistakes. He was so pleased with the work that I did that he tipped me $200. So I was like, whoa.
Crazy.
But yeah, so I've been actually doing really good. But this week has been good for me. Not every week is good. There are some days where I don't work for almost a week, but I don't
Yeah.
like, I'm cool with that. You know, it's like
Let's
I
well,
can,
let's talk about that.
yeah,
Let's talk about
definitely.
that. The feast or famine that you deal with in the gig economy. It's like sometimes you can just be busy beyond belief and you're making all sorts of crazy money. And then
Yep.
sometimes the platform is dead.
Yeah.
It's like where's the jobs at? You know, you're just at home playing video games all week.
But for me, the worst month that I've had was January.
That's how it goes. December, January, like work just kind of like tapers off
It
and then picks
does.
back up after that. Is the holidays. I think that's what it is. You got Christmas, New Year's, and then right before that Thanksgiving. And people aren't necessarily getting work done. Companies traveling, in terms of actually going and doing residential work like you do. Um, yeah, work kind of dries up at that point in time, and so I guess this can kind of segue into like financial independence and
Yeah.
making sure that you have a rainy day fund, especially if you're in, you know. And this is something that I spoke with Mace Financial Independence. It
It's a
will
road.
change everything.
It's a road.
It'll make your life so much different. Like even before you're financially independent, just pursuing it changes things. Like it reduces stress. You know, when emergencies pop up, they're no longer emergencies, they're minor inconveniences. You don't have to go into debt over dumb stuff, you know?
Oh, prime example of that. So, um, back on my old truck, it was like I was doing a lot of the DoorDash and food delivery stuff. So I was doing constant maintenance on my truck, and it's like over the course of like 4 months, I put $1,000 into that thing to keep it running, and it was rough because the money was tight, and so it's like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna be late on another thing because I have to fix this on the truck. That's how we make our money. I have to do it. And then now it's what was that? Hold on, let me check. I don't know what that's for. Anyway, so but now it's like recently I had a tire go flat on this truck, and they're big beefy all-weather tires on it, so they're not cheap. But it's like the first time in my life, it's like, oh shit, I gotta take care of this on the truck, and didn't even sweat about it. I've never had to fix anything that costs that much on a vehicle without stressing out. It really changes your life, like having that cushion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I remember like my card's been skimmed multiple times. I had an old bank, Nevada State Bank. Don't go to it; they suck. Anyway, credit card got skimmed, and a huge crazy story there. My account was dry. I was in the negative because of it. It was bad, and I was worried. This last time that my card got skimmed, I was like, "Oh, that sucks. The money's gonna come back, so I don't mind waiting on it." The, the
Yeah.
the only inconvenience was not having my debit card, but it's like I've never had that in my life. I've never had it. It's always been like a struggle, and it's like it was a long road to get to the point to where we had more money at the end of the month than month at the end of the money.
Exactly. Can you say that one more time for us, Max?
You want to have more money at the end of the month than month at the end of the money.
Oh man, that feels good. I just like hearing it, you know. I mean, it's an amazing feeling. Like for me, I remember, years back, I would be like, "How am I working this hard and making all this money, and then at the end of the year, I don't have anything to go for?" It's like how? How is that even possible? And it's because I wasn't making sure there was more money at the end of the month, and switching that around. My God, like Mace was saying, being able to handle crises and not be stressed out. Having money saved up, being able to afford to make the trip all the way out to California to settle this issue because you've got the money so that you don't have to go to work that day. You've got the money to put gas in the car. You've got the money to get that hotel. You've got the money to fight these ridiculous, obscene charges that are charged against you. You know, like if you weren't making those changes, you know, the year leading up to it, what would your life have been like? You'd still be dealing with the problem, probably. That's my guess.
You know, when me and Gig Sacker first met each other a little over a year ago, I was in a totally different state of mind. I was in a totally different part of my life, and telling you, it's been night and day since then. You know,
Hmm.
it's and for both of us, it's like, I think the biggest thing about the gig economy that I love so much, with when it in line with the whole financial independence thing, the whole premise of financial independence is so that you can actually live your life, as opposed
Exactly.
to just surviving it, I guess.
Hmm.
Like for example,
Treading water, just like this, just trying to survive.
like I've done trips up to see my family up in Washington, and thanks to the gig economy and, you know, being frugal as I can afford to leave here, go up there and hang out. I do a couple jobs. I change my location for TaskRabbit. I do a couple jobs while I'm up there, pays for the trip, and you know, then I got to see this fine gentleman. We missed last time though; it was
Yeah.
communication errors, but you know, my mom lives off in the sticks, so I wouldn't blame you not wanting to go all that far out. Oh, it's
It's
nuts
really
though.
nice
So
out
I
there, though.
drove for an IKEA job. I think I told you the story, but man, the traffic out there is nuts. I drove from
Oh,
my
it's no
mom's house
joke.
all the way to Everett.
Oh, that's like 2 hours each
Oh
way.
man, yeah. Oh, dude, that
Oh no.
yeah, for a job that I couldn't even finish doing
Oh my God, that's
because
terrible.
it was a job that it required two people. Like they put it
Oh
up on the
man,
dock as, oh, one person can do this. I get there for all the work that it entailed. I'm like,
there's
this
no way.
needs
Yeah,
two people. Like I want to say that I can do a lot of stuff. I can't do this by myself.
you should have called me. You should be like, Gig, get out here, brother. I'm like, I'm on my way. Don't worry.
God, that job was the worst.
God, that's terrible. I had a job in Everett. Normally, it takes me 30 minutes to get there, but there was an accident, so it took me an hour, and I was just so frustrated.
Dude, it's like a, all right, so I lived a little bit out there. I try to stay away from like the greater Seattle area. I try to stay like further
Yeah.
south, like Federal Way, Auburn, Enumclaw, Black
Uh,
Diamond. Yeah, I try to stay off in the sticks. The roads are a little bit more manageable. But like when you get in the greater area, closer to the water, like just the highways, just they kind of spider web and they just get all congested and stuff. It's nuts.
yeah.
I think it's not as bad as Portland though. Like just driving through Portland's a pain. But I think it's
Mm.
probably because of how all their road signs are.
Yeah, I've never actually driven in Portland. I was there for like 2 weeks, but I rented a bike, and so I was just biking all over the place, and it was the best time of my life.
It's a beautiful
Yeah,
city.
I can imagine driving in Portland sucks. You know,
Oh,
I got to see it as I was just in my bike lane, just cruising by.
I heard that the for the gig economy stuff, food delivery is
Yeah.
horrible in Portland because the river goes right through
Oh, is
it,
that right?
and you're only paid for
Oh,
straight line
yeah, yeah,
distance.
yeah. That's right.
So if you pick up something at one place, but 300 feet across the river is your drop off location, but you have to drive 5 miles out of the way to get there,
Uh
you're only
huh.
getting paid for the straight line,
Oh, I
which
see.
is, it's so ridiculous. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot,
that makes sense.
the way that they should calculate that stuff on the food delivery apps is based upon the fastest route. Like,
Right, not straight line. Who drives a straight line?
yeah,
Who? Nobody. That's
let me just make my truck submergible and just go across the water.
or get a propeller on there, and just fly straight over. Straight line. That's the dumbest stuff. All right, hold on. We got some questions. How
Perfect.
many gig platforms are you working for right now? I'm doing one. Field Nation. Mace is doing one. TaskRabbit.
I would not recommend it
Uh,
though.
I want to get on TaskRabbit. I really do. I'm signed up.
Oh,
I just haven't.
dude. All right. So in the Seattle area,
Yeah.
it's all algorithmic.
Uh huh.
So when I go up there, my baseline's $50 an hour for my
Wow.
experience on the
That's
platform.
nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can
That's
still
really good.
dress up your profile and hike your numbers up just
And
fine.
do they take a cut out of that $50 an hour?
Well, yeah. So I think it's like 10 to 15%, something like that.
Oh, that's not bad.
So,
That's pretty
like
much
for example,
installation.
like I'm at 27 for furniture assembly, right? The
Yeah.
client pays $31.20 something cents.
Uh-huh.
So they don't take the cut from our hourly. They just add
They just
that
add it
percentage
on.
to the client.
So you still get whatever rate you were asking.
Yeah, so whatever rate I choose for myself that's what I take home.
Yeah.
So
Let me see. We got another question. Let me see. I applied for Amazon Flex in November, and like the following day, it was full. That sounds familiar. Amazon, they're constantly getting people in, and it fills up really quick. How is Seattle life? Seattle sucks. It's rainy. It's gloomy. It's always cloudy. It's a terrible city to live in. I'm actually in Redmond though, and so Redmond is beautiful.
fancy.
Like, I love very fancy. I love Redmond. It's expensive as balls, but it's worth it, in my opinion, to like help with how shitty everything else is, you know. So I'm dealing with like the rain and the gloom and the constant drizzle and the clouds and you know there's also the Seattle freeze, which is where people are friendly, but or what's the saying? They'll like talk to you, but they're not really friendly. You know, like they'll say, you know, hey, what's up or whatever, and stuff. But if you actually want to like hang out with them and like actually make friends, that's like it's a non-starter. So yeah, Seattle sucks. I don't like it here. Summers are gorgeous though. Probably the most beautiful you'll ever see. Pretty much what is it? July and August. It's just like the hottest it gets is maybe 85 degrees. Like Mace, you lived here for a while.